Could you send me the link as well?
Yeah, we're streaming now. You can catch the stream on the YouTube if you're subscribed to it. Okay.
So we are live, yes?
Hold
We are
on.
live?
Hold on 1 second. I'll let you know. We are live.
We are live, okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Liberalist Casual Chat. First of many, let's hope so. The order of the business tonight, once I find it. Oh, my computer's crashed, can you believe it? Anyway, we're going to be doing nothing because my computer's crashed.
That's no problem.
Why don't we do an introduction in the meantime?
We're going live, yeah. Go to introductions. Go, go, go.
Fucking do it live!
We're doing live, goddammit!
Hi, my name is
So
Dan.
John, go.
My name is Dan. I only really have a Facebook presence. You can add me on Steam at Brundlefly.
Hi, my name is John, and you can find me as the Outcentrist on Facebook.
Hi, my name is Connor. You can find me at Kukanusa on YouTube.
Hi, my name is Bill, and you can find me in most furry porn shops.
We're off to a start.
Yeah, this is a great start.
If anyone's watching the stream, could let us know if the audio's alright and everything.
We're off to a
And
start.
as soon, yeah, that's is showbiz, eh? So as soon as I get the order of business up, we'll quickly run through the topics of the stream,
Yeah, let's look at the order of business.
which
I can do that.
which
here.
will be addressing criticisms that have been recently levelled against us. So the first criticism, and one that is revolving around and around and around the social sphere, is the conflation between individual and individualist and collective and collectivists. Now, I really want to get this nailed down and put a solid position on it. Well, it's not even a position. I just want to bloody clear up the definitions for those that don't particularly understand it. So we'll start with that, and then we'll move on to the liberalist position of nationalism, because I've seen that rising up a few times, and then Carlos's video, which I'm not actually fully sure. What does it detail? The notion of meritocracy within government, or meritocracy forced by government, I believe.
We have a video from Carlos with some of his complaints. He's one of the members in the group. I think it's fair to play the video in full without any kind of tomfoolery in regards to editing, and address his complaints fairly.
Sounds fair. And then we shall talk about limited government and the liberalist position on state as a whole, I guess, and meritocracy stemming from Carlos's video. And then we have an alt-right poster with what the alt-right want. Now, it's not necessarily their principles, which is what I've been trying to drag out of them, but it is what they want. So it's a start, and I think it'd be good to look at those wants and decide whether they are at all achievable in a liberalist society. So let's kick off then. Let's kick off with the first topic, which would be the individual versus collective versus individualist versus collectivist conflation. Go.
Let's see.
Okay. Is my mic working, by the way?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
You sound beautiful, Brendan.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, it wasn't working. I'm going to introduce myself first, actually, because I never got to do that. Hi, I'm Brendan. All right, moving on. With the individualist, collectivist debate, I think the main problem is people can't separate the words from the philosophical context. I think that is just the main issue. You know, to be an individual is to be one person. To be an individualist is to put one person above a group of people. So rather, well, for instance, their rights, to put the rights of the individual above the rights of the group.
Yeah, and another thing I've seen is the conflating of the nation as to be a group, as in you only get your rights because of group rights, and they don't. I think they're just being obtuse. I really don't take that criticism seriously, because you can open up a book. It's not hard. You just go find a definition of words that already exist. The thing is, the nation is not an individual. The nation doesn't have rights. The individuals have rights. You know. Now, what is the definition of individualist?
No, I think another conflation is the freedom of association as well. As soon as you associate with anyone, they see you as a collective and therefore no longer individualist, like no longer an individualist. That's one of the main common conflation as well.
I think one way
Which is-
one way to put it would be like a person can be an individualist or a collectivist, but everyone in a collective is an individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a group of individuals is a collective.
But not necessarily holding a collectivist position.
No, because they're not advocating for their own group rights. An individualist is an advocate for individual rights, i.e., all rights are based on an individual level, not a group level. So when it goes to identity, an individual identity is too complex to sort of put any border notions on, whereas a group identity, you sort of discount all those little nuances within the individual themselves in favour of the more showing group identity, like race, for example. So a group of white people would advocate for white group rights rather than an individual advocating for his own individual rights. Oh no. Am I still in the stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, still
Yeah,
here.
everyone's still here.
Does that make sense? Am I talking gibberish?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, but
No, that
Seems
makes sense. Yeah. So it's essentially what it will come down to is a group of individualists will respect each individual because their rights come first, whereas a collectivist will happily kill you to benefit the group.
That's it, yeah, exactly. But based on overall characteristics of the group rather than the nuances of the individual. Because at the end of the day, we're all different, even though we have some similarities.
Well, an individualist would put the individual at the core as the core unit of society, as opposed to a group.
Another thing they'll commonly conflate is one, say you have like a group of people and they say like a club and certain people are excluded from the club, then their argument would be that those people have more rights than those people outside of it, using the freedom of association to conflate that with collectivist ideology. So that's one thing I think we might need to address as well, because those are freely associated groups rather than group identities that is imposed by a third party, if you know what I mean, or by them, like such as race and gender or some, you know.
Oh
You see what I
no,
mean?
I understand you. So essentially, we have the right. We have
Not
the
sure
right.
I'm
We have the right
articulating
to
it clearly.
associate.
Can you repeat that, Brendan?
Yeah, we have the right. Oh yeah, we have the right to freely associate, and in our free association, we get to choose. I don't get to choose the fact that I'm a white man. Yeah,
No, exactly.
there's nothing I can do about this,
Well, that's
and
it.
I do not want my rights being based off of something I can't control. Essentially.
Yeah, so rights shouldn't be based on immutable characteristics because you can't change those. You can't change those characteristics.
Exactly.
They cannot be.
Oh,
You can't be better at being black.
Hold on.
Like senior citizen or disability or those, there are some exceptions that I would probably hold, but that, you know, those are exceptions.
You
I
should
wouldn't
be
say that you
pragmatic
have
about it.
different rights. You don't have different rights for being disabled. You just have a lesser capability to use your rights.
No, I mean
You
like
still have the rights.
benefits, for example, or disability parking, for instance, or you know, such certain. Those are certain.
Oh, that's not a right. That's a privilege.
Yeah,
It's
there's
a
a
privilege,
granted-
but not only that, it's not based on group rights. It's based on the fact that that individual has a disabled need. So we're going to be pragmatic and give him something, a privilege, that allows him to traverse the real world in the same way that other individuals can. So it's not a right that he's getting over everyone else. It's actually leveling the playing field for them.
Yeah,
Well, I think an
that's-
easier
No,
way to
because
explain it is
I'm just playing the devil's advocate because obviously we all generally agree, so it's quite difficult for us to argue with each other because we generally agree with what we're saying.
Yeah.
we're just
Well,
trying to
I
sort
can
out
fucking
definitions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like an example would be like a privilege is granted, a right is innate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds spot on.
So when you give someone a privilege, let's say someone is deaf, so you make them privileged so that they can have an even playing field towards, being involved with civic society. It doesn't take away.
Well, as close to an even playing field as we can get without
Yeah.
compelling other people,
Agreed.
and without essentially giving them a free ride. Nobody should get a free ride. Doesn't matter who you are.
I'm gonna say the thing is different is that it doesn't take away from other people's rights. Group rights takes away
Yeah.
from another group.
I think that might go into negative rights and positive
Unless
rights.
somebody's going to argue that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for everything. But I'm a filthy statist, so I don't care.
An example that I can cite from Canada specifically is if you live in Quebec and you run a restaurant. Now you'd think, okay, freedom of expression. So you're writing down your menu. Well, we had a case where a restaurant was forced to find a French version of the word pasta because of language laws to privilege the French people as a right.
What was the word they used?
They never got one. They just kept arguing because there wasn't an alternative to pasta. There's no French version of it. The French in France call it pasta.
It is le pasta.
Pasta.
Or like signs being forced to change. Like you can have an English sign, but you also like the French wording would have to be larger, and they will go after your. Like you would consider, well, I have the right to express myself, but their view is, well, the French and the English have rights as groups to be surrounded by their language, which at that point starts to impose on others, and that's maybe a problem with the fact that Canada is split linguistically, but it's still there.
Not really. I mean, what percentage of your population actually speaks French as their primary language?
About, I think, I don't know the percentage of Quebec, but in Quebec they're the majority. In New Brunswick they're half. And there's small towns that are French majority across Canada.
So would it be safe to say maybe 20%, 25% tops of the entire country?
I'd say 30% tops, but yeah, probably 25-ish.
Yeah. Well, Canada's a little different. You guys don't have freedom, you know?
We're working on it. I'm here for a reason.
It's 20.6% of the Canadian population speak French.
20.6?
Yeah, 20.6%.
As their primary, or they just
English.
speak it?
Mother tongue, so primary language.
Okay.
It also doesn't help that all
6% speak English as their primary.
Say that again?
It's gone quiet. Filling silent noise. But I think that the thing is I wonder how much of when people say, "Oh, a bunch of individuals are becoming a collective," nothing ironic in that. I believe either they're being willfully ignorant, or they're using it as in the same manner that they use the cringe meme. Oh, this is so cringy.
Oh no, I think an important thing
They're
we
just
need to raise
they're just trying to debase the argument. That's all. I think they fully understand what they're saying.
Poisoning the well.
they're trying to make it all emotional. No, the point we need to make is if it's like cringy for a bunch of individualists to form a collective, then that means collectivists can no longer use the word I. If we're gonna use their logic,
Right back at them.
they care about the white race, so they cannot say I anymore. They have to say the white people. Fuck it, we're gonna follow their rules. Yeah, we, and then we're gonna fall into fucking anthem. Ayn Rand was right.
Yeah, the magisterial we.
Just see a bunch of alt-righters. It's like the one guy trying to phrase it. We am hungry. We really need to eat now. And the rest of them voting, it's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm full. It's like 3 days later. We really need to eat now. We really hungry. Man, if only you had a word to separate you from everyone else.
It's
crazy.
Ridiculous. I don't understand how you cannot understand it. I mean, even by our own name, if you put "ist" at the end of something, you're advocating for a certain position. So individualist, you're advocating for individual rights based on various factors, and collectivist, you're based on collective rights based on various factors. You can't have an individualist who advocates for collectivist rights. It's just impossible. The 2 points destroy each other. So yeah, I think people are being willfully ignorant on this one.
I agree. I don't think I think it's a joke. They know it will get a reaction of.
Oh, they were right though. We've been talking about it for like 5 minutes.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important to lay out what it is, what their argument it is, without making it into a straw man and then tearing it down quickly. So from now on,
I think all rights of the citizens should be universal to all the citizens, rather than any specific group have more rights than others within a population or within a nation.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just from now on, when I hear that argument, I'm not taking it seriously. I I'm just going to ignore anyone who makes that argument because it's obvious they're just trying to get a reaction, and I don't
Oh
want.
yeah, it takes 5 minutes of research to see what they mean.
And
What's
I don't want to be a reactionary. You know, it's tired.
Now, I just quickly want to answer, very, very quickly, want to answer Optima Nova. I want to answer their question in YouTube. Will the Liberalists abolish the British monarchy? Now, myself, I hold the position that while I believe that the monarchy has a cultural significance and importance on the British people, especially at the working class level, and being working class, I understand that, but I believe that we are in desperate need of a written constitution, and we can't have one when we have a monarchy, because the Queen is the constitution. She is the arbiter of the constitution, and it's completely unwritten as well. So yes, I would be in favour of abolishing the monarchy for pragmatic reasons, but that's just me.
I think you may want to say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, like Canada, she's the head of state for Canada as well. And my opinion is this: it's like I don't mind. It's the concept of the monarchy. Like as far as it goes, she's been a monarch longer than most of these democracies have existed, and her advice has helped nurture these democracies. So I don't mind her. It's Charles and the continuing line that bother me, and the fact that it's there's nothing meritocratic about being born into royalty. It's simply a fact. Yeah, it's just get rid of it after her, is my opinion.
Yeah, I just think it's unnecessary. I do. Like I say, I see the cultural significance, and as you say as well, she's been a particularly good monarch. But I just think it's outdated. We're in desperate need of a written constitution, and we can't have one while she's in power. And he also put our tax bucks paid to support their welfare. That's not actually true. They pay. I think it's £1 a year each person in Britain, each taxpayer in Britain actually hands to the Crown. Well, they earn most of it themselves through the Crown investment.
Bill, would you say that because it's of such cultural significance, that even abolishing the monarchy, it won't abolish it in the people's heart, for lack of a better term?
Well, I mean, you can still have that family there, but just give them celebrity status rather than royal status.
Well, that's pretty much what they do now. To be fair,
that's what they do now. So their traditional notions are a hindrance to our democratic progress.
I mean, there was also didn't Cromwell manage to abolish it
for 10 years, wasn't it? And then they came back. He executed the king at the time, didn't he? But I think it was 10, 15 years later. Yeah, I believe so. 10, 15 years later, they reinstated the monarchy. But yeah, anyway,
one thing that you both missed. It's the fact that the royal family is the head of the Church of England too.
Oh, that's
well, they can remain the head of the Church of England. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm a COE apostate.
There'll be a monarchy, or if they'll have a different name.
Well, I'd say that's a good answer for that question. Do you want to move on to nationalism?
Yeah, definitely. So the next point was, what is the liberalist stance on nationalism?
Do you mind
for the fatherland country, my fellows?
If I may.
You have the floor.
I don't believe you can have a liberalist country without borders, and
you can't have a country without borders. Full stop. To be fair.
Yes, that's true. You can't have a country without borders, and you can't have the country you want without principles. And being nationalist is not an inherent evil. Iceland is nationalist. Japan, India has 3 different breeds of nationalism. Territorial.
If you want any form of stability, you need to at least have some elements of nationalism. Otherwise, the country disintegrates into nothing, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think nationalism is an inherent part of liberalism.
Well, what form of nationalism would be a better question than whether...
I'd compare it to... Now, like I said, India has 3 different branches of nationalism. They have territorial nationalism, progressive nationalism, and I think cultural nationalism, going from progressive is on the far left. Well, it's on the left. Cultural is on the right. And territorial is in the middle, sort of like a civic nationalism. I would go for certainly a civic nationalism because it's the best chance to have individual rights for all. I mean, but honestly, what do you guys think?
Well, definitely civic based on our principles.
I
Yeah, I
think
agree with
what's important to point out there is the purpose of nationalism. It's not nationalism for the sake of the nation. It's nationalism for the sake that the nation protects the individuals within the nation itself. You care for your nation because your nation is protects the rights of the individuals. That's the best way I can look at it, really.
I think it also extends into looking at the nation as like the idea of civic nationalism, that anywhere you go within your country, you can go there expecting a baseline. It's almost like extended family in a certain way. If that makes any sense. Like, oh yeah, we're still here. We're still all Canadian. That's great. We all have the shared traditions.
Yeah, that's totally. I think when I think of civic nationalism, that's what I think.
Well, when you look at the definition of nation as well, it says that it's a nation is a piece of land that with whom the people inside of it have a shared value, culture, heritage. But I think heritage we're starting to move away from now naturally as we become a more intertwined world.
Yeah.
I completely forgot where I was going on that point.
I think we should base it upon the principles that we've set out as the liberalists. Those principles should be a part of the civic nationalism.
Yeah, that's why in Rousseau's social...
that is spot on.
I think
I think we should start with principles, and then the rest are a little bit more. You can give it more leeway to.
Yeah, I mean, civic nationalism is based on
cultures evolve over time. So, I mean, culture, heritage, and everything evolves over time. But you just definitely have set of principles based on individualism, and all the principles that we've laid out.
Yeah, Rousseau's civic nationalism is based on equality, tolerance, freedom, and individual liberty. It goes into far more details in the book, but even those 4 principles, when you suss them out what they mean, because obviously he didn't mean... He was kind of collectivist in his own way, but I think those 4 are a good foundation for nationalist policy. If you consider equality of opportunity, tolerance of others' viewpoints, but not so much so that you destroy the nation.
Well, that's it. I've always said, because I'm a cultural nationalist, if you like, but I believe whereas I differ from, say, let's say, I don't want to keep using them as an example, but let's say like the alt-right, they would be nationalists as well. And I myself am a cultural nationalist. It's just that I believe that my cultural values can be shared amongst everyone. It isn't predicated on race or these other secondary characteristics. So whereas I do believe that we have the right to protect British culture under the term nationalism, I do believe that where I differ from the alt-right is I do believe that anybody can adopt that culture. And there has to be, when we bring people into the society, there has to be a level of willingness to adopt that culture. So when we have, like, say, the mass influx of people from Islamic nations, now not all of them, of course. I grew up in a highly bloody diverse area, if you like. So I know plenty of hashtag not all. But it is true. It's true. Many of the young Muslim men I know aren't the same Muslim men you see all the time on the news and all this sort of stuff. In fact, the older generation, it tends to be a hell of a lot more conservative than the generation that I'm from and the generation I grew up with. I'm not saying it's just Islam when they come over that they can't adopt that culture, but it is particularly difficult, I think.
Well,
I think part of
with such totalitarian ideologies.
I think part of that is a matter of integration. Like, we all have the basic principles. It's like, all right, you're moving to this country. Like, would you have a problem if your kid married a local? Like, if that's a problem, then I'm not sure we want you here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Do you?
Should homosexuals be thrown off of roofs?
Well, immigration should be based on meritocracy anyway. It should be like the benefits it has towards the host nation. Otherwise, there's no point,
Some consider it a charity. That's the problem with the progressive left, is they consider immigration to be a charity. towards the individual coming here rather than a net benefit for the host nation that they want to call home.
Isn't that a bit racist? Isn't it a bit supremacist, isn't that?
That kind of relates to that whole,
It's
oh,
the
it's a
white man's
shithole.
burden. That's what they see it as.
Oh my god, that's too accurate. It's like,
No,
oh,
these aren't certainly racist. Yeah.
These aren't shithole countries, but you have to let them flee them.
Yeah, they can't go back, but they're great countries, guys. They just can't go back.
They're fantastic countries. They just need a bunch of help, and you've got fucking terrorist attacks all the time and horrible dictators, and no one ever goes there. But it's a fine place to be.
Well,
yeah, it's like the Congo's not a shithole nation. Ignore the fact they are literally shitting in holes. But look.
Well, the thing is,
or they eat a mud cookie, each little dirt.
So another interesting point to this argument as well. Someone that sent me actually a really good question on Facebook, and it took me a while to try and reconcile it. Is how do we reconcile the fact that nation and protecting the people within it is in itself a form of group right? I'm asking this because I do think it's important for us to put a clear position.
The nation doesn't have.
It's not a group right.
It's not a group right.
It's essentially a protection of all individuals
within a nation.
Well, it's every individual. Like if you're a part, like your nation, you have your individual right as a citizen to remain in it and to have the protection of the state to which you pay in to protect you. Well, yeah, it's not we're protecting the group of Australians or Brits or Canadians or Americans. It's we're protecting each Canadian, Brit, Australian.
Well, and your own nation is your own jurisdiction anyway, so you don't have a jurisdiction to other nations.
Well, that was always that's my philosophy on it. Is that I believe that I've had a saying that I believe I'm a nationalist in defence of my country, but not in its supremacy. So I believe that there is only so much of a reach a nation can have before it becomes, say, intervention into another nation. So there's that side of the argument for me. I'm still not fully formed on the argument, I must admit.
It's sort of like
Billy, would you say that you're an isolationist on this issue then? Just to dig around a bit.
Well, I believe that if people want to come to live in my country to enjoy liberal rights, they have the right to try, but we have the right to refuse. Now we have the right to refuse based on.
I mean, do you want to isolate the liberal nation from other nations, or do you
only illiberal nations?
Okay,
that's a good answer.
Yeah, I think if there's other liberal nations that we've come up with a system of governance, should I say, that I deem to be the most free, that allows the most prosperity, but also allows us to be the freest. Now, if other countries around the world have adopted that, then I believe that there should be mutual cooperation between us because we have the shared values that liberalism would bring. But I don't think that we need or have the right to put that on illiberal countries.
No, Billy, are you including trade with this?
Well, you could trade. I mean,
yeah, because I was going to say
it would depend on the trade agreement, wouldn't
it? Some economists make the argument that opening up trade with illiberal countries creates the incentive for them to become more liberal, because as you become more liberal, you end up being better trade partners and more productive, and make more money. So yeah, I just want
that is a good point. Just look at Saudi Arabia. They've just opened up cinemas so people can watch the Emoji Movie, and now lesbians can drive to their own stoning.
Oh, how can they do that to their people? Let people watch the Emoji Movie, Jesus.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like
bad.
I think that's also a difference between a guarantee of free trade between liberal and illiberal nations versus a guarantee of protection of illiberal nations by liberal nations. Like, as long as we continue to offer our protection to Saudi Arabia, they don't really have to care. Like, the government can come to us and say, like, hey, you offer your protection, any chance it'll extend to suppressing a civil war of, say, democratic protesters, or another country they're at war with, they might call us into, even if the other country is democratic. Like, it can easily lead to a conflict of interest and propagating illiberal governments by protecting them with our militaries.
And I think we've gotten to a point like that now, haven't we?
Well, guys,
Where we
Fight
put-
the Dragon's got a very good comment. Let's deport people in Great Britain that don't drink tea 5 times a week. They're not British enough.
I responded to him on Twitter. I put on a scale of John Locke to Oswald Mosley, how British are you? It's a ridiculous notion. I mean, he's an ethno-nationalist, and he even said that it isn't about. Because I said, "What would you do with me?" I said, "I'm an Anglo. I can trace my heritage back since before records began. Yet I will not allow you to remove rights based on immutable characteristics." And he said, "Well, it isn't about race. It's about how British you are." It's like, come on, man.
That's not even white then.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, like the
Jesus.
one and a shared. This is a shared phrase I've noticed amongst all the English-speaking countries that I've been to, and people from those places is the most common admonishment I hear is, "Oh, how would you like it? How'd you like it if someone did that to you?" It's always that, but like I've been to Spain, and the one I heard is like, "God is watching."
Yeah.
So that's an interesting difference. God is watching versus, you're being a bit of a dick, and you know it.
Well, we're a bit more politer than you Americans.
Canadian.
Canadian, American, you all got the same.
Canadians are just North French Americans, so it doesn't matter.
I call them puck fuckers
Jesus.
or frostbacks. Call them frostbacks.
I'm a little too polite to, little too
Canadians
polite
are
to share what we call you.
Canadians are just the girlfriend that never left the house.
We're like the free big brother who moved out of the parents' house and is able to, not have a
We'll
queen.
get you back.
So
Oh,
you're free. You left the house, and we can read.
But we get TV shows just for being fat and pumping out 20 kids, so it's nothing more free than that.
I think that's called the fall of Rome.
Yeah.
Like you're inches away from a coliseum and lions.
Well, we already have the bread and circus. When's the Super Bowl?
Watch two two dozen giant men brain each other to death on a field.
See, I'm reading this Fight the Dragon, right? And he's making me irate now. Just being of British descent doesn't make you British if you are a civic nationalist. What is he getting at? I don't understand his point. Am I being stupid? Or am I having cognitive dissonance here? I don't understand what he's trying to say.
If you're not a citizen of Britain, that would make sense because you're of descent, you live in a different country. It doesn't mean you are British because you're not a citizen of the country. That's what I think it means.
I think it's actually more than that, though. Something I'm going to borrow from our progressive friends. I think what it comes down to is a way a British person is meant to act, just like there's a way a white person's meant to act, and a way that a black person is meant to act. You see this with like all Marxist ideologies, whether it be SJW or alt-right. It's just they see it as some kind of essentially class warfare. It's a class struggle, and classes act in a certain way. So if there is a class of British people, then there should be a certain way for this British class to act. If you do not act like it, it doesn't make you British.
No, it means you're not British if you don't act that way. Is that it?
Yeah, it means that you're not British if you do not act British. It's an expression. It's a gender expression. That's what it is.
Hey, was this stream posted in the Facebook? Billy?
Which stream?
Hey guys,
no
I think it's posted on the page, but if you guys say you posted in the group yet, but I can't post, so can you check? I had a look, I can't see the link.
I forgot to post it in the pages.
I got it.
No, you posted it on the page, but you haven't posted it in the group.
I'll take care of that.
Right.
Yeah, see, this whole thing with Fight the Dragon here is what I was talking about. We don't want to be reactionary against the ethno-nationalists. I'm friends with a few. I don't mind. I listen to Fashion the Nation and a couple other podcasts. Like, I can entertain the thoughts. It's just that's not why we're here. You know what I mean?
The problem is it's not us attacking them, it's them attacking us, because we relatively
That's what I
centrist.
mean.
Yeah, but what do you do when I'm
Because they need the division in society to justify their existence. Therefore, that's why they're constantly attacking us in the middle ground.
If I'm
Oh, wait a sec, guys. I've got a quote about this. Give me a second. I've got to get the Satanic Bible out. Just give me 30 seconds so I can open up the page. Okay, here it is. The Satanic Bible, the 9 Satanic Statements, 9th one. Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept them in all these years. People who ideologies need an enemy. If you take away the enemy, what purpose is there to exist?
Right. And if
they can't have an ethno state if they can't divide people from white people, so they need to have the division. So that's they need, otherwise if in peacetime no one would randomly want to segregate themselves, so they need to escalate, in other words.
Yeah, they need to enter into a state of war for them to get their ethno state. But it's the same with the Marxists as well. They need to enter into a state of war for them to get their Marxist state as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the only time their ideologies can work.
Because I think at the moment they already got a very strong hold in a lot of culture, so I don't think they actually necessarily need war. Because they need HR departments.
It is a state of war already.
It's a state of war already.
They need a systemic
It is
collapse.
always a state of war. That's what Marx says. History is just class conflict all the way through. There is no peacetime. There is nothing but conflict between master and slave.
And the ethno-nationalists just replace class with race or ethnicity.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Like if you look at
replace class with gender and race as well.
Now, here's the thing about Here's the last thing I'll say about Fight the Dragon. I'm looking at its arguments. To a civic nationalist, you are not British if you don't act that way. Civic nationalism includes the principle of tolerance towards other people. So if they don't act that way, it doesn't matter to a civic nationalist.
Yep.
That's it. Read Rousseau. I know he's a collectivist in a lot of ways. But
oh, which one? Inequality or social contract?
Social contract. He lays out civic nationalism and social. Read them all.
Social contract. Then.
He lays out this, the civic nationalism and the social contract, and I'd suggest reading it before making idiotic arguments. And that's not towards any of you guys. I love you.
To a civic nationalist, you are British if you act and think British, no matter what race you are. If you don't act and think British, you are not British and should be dealt with.
See, that's not.
Okay, I've got a response to that though.
That's not how civic nationalism works.
Traditionally, the liberal values were British, so I'd say that to be British requires that you have liberal values.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, Locke.
But you also tolerate people who have different values until they outwardly try to destroy the state itself. You cannot tolerate intolerance. So what if the person is intolerant? If he's intolerant and he acts upon those intolerances against another person's right, he goes to jail. Or
yeah, exactly,
yeah, that's it.
He can hold whatever he wants in his head.
Okay, I understand that. I understand that.
But you can hold intolerant thoughts. Like, you can be in a civic nationalist country and have racist thoughts all you want. You can say racist things. At least when it comes to America, you can. I know a lot of Europeans, no offense, have trouble, with that concept. But
you can't say racist things in Britain.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
There will be some consequence from the state.
There's literally a division, in the police force specifically for this. So
that's why I'm not worried. That's why I'm not worried about these flies. When I'm hiking in the woods, I'm gonna have mosquitoes around me. They can go ahead. I don't care about them. It's the woods itself are packed with Marxists, and by woods I mean universities and HR departments. That's what I'm worried about. And they're the greatest recruitment tool for the ethno-nationalists. So my target, my sight, is on the systems in which the Marxists have too much power in. I want people to eventually look at a communist flag and feel the same level of disgust as they do towards a Nazi flag.
Yeah.
I feel a greater level of disgust with the communist flag, actually, because at least everyone knows that the Nazis were bad. At school you were taught that the Nazis were bad. They killed 6 million Jews, killed 5 million more, other. But you don't learn about the Holodomor or the Great Leap Forward or the Killing Fields. You don't learn about any
or the
of this
Purge.
Stuff.
You know what's hilarious? It's like Antifa always have not always, but a lot of them have communist flags. There's Antifa Hong Kong, and they don't use communist flags. It's quite funny that.
Well, I mean, if Antifa didn't use communist flags, then they'd probably have more validity in what they do.
Actually, it kind of is, but they're still using the Marxist thing, but the neo-Marxist thing. But obviously, because China is is supposedly a communist country, so they don't actually throw the communist flag. It's quite funny.
Irony.
Yeah, the whole thing about Antifa, and they're I see it posted in the group, and there's a major difference, I would think, and I don't know this for sure, so I'm going to ask you guys. When we have Antifa over here, and I'm in a very blue state, very liberal, very progressive state, and when Antifa shows up in one of our cities, I don't live in Berkeley, so it's a little different, or Boston, but it's like maybe 10 LARPers with their face covered, and that's it. I mean, how is it in Europe for Antifa?
In Britain, it drives up and down in waves. I've been to. I probably shouldn't admit this on stream, but I've been to EDL rallies, and it depending on the size of the rally will depend on the size of the counter protest, obviously, and it was always a mixed bag of people with their faces covered up, the Antifa type people, though. Antifa back then wasn't, I mean, it was heard of, but it wasn't heard of in the same extent now. But you don't hear about it much on the news or even see it much in real life within Britain, I don't think. Other people may. So I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think it's as big a problem in Britain as it is in America, for example.
No,
It's almost
the
unheard of in
communism got
Canada.
Yep.
Wait, what do you see in Canada?
Like we do, it's not that we don't have SJWs. It's just that I guess they don't have. We don't have any major right wing for them to form an Antifa block against. Like an example of what would be Antifa action, but wasn't covered, was the next biggest city to me is Lethbridge, and they painted a whole bunch of downtown. They painted a whole bunch of crosswalks rainbow color for gay people, gay pride, all that, and no one really minded. But what they noticed is there was gum stuck to the road on these things, and they figured it was vandalism. So they started watching it, saying this is a hate crime. And then you just had a whole bunch of angry, menacing-looking university students every once in a while watching over it to see if anyone spat or threw gum there, as opposed to all the rest of the gum-covered sidewalks that litter all of Lethbridge.
So what you're saying is you need a far right, or they need a far right, just to validate their own idiocy.
Yeah, well,
I'm saying if there was a legitimate far right in Canada actually forming, Antifa would be there, but we don't have. They're not that strong here.
No.
Well, it's a supply and demand problem. If the leftists don't have the monsters, they create them, or they shift. There's a leftward creep along the political axis of the term Nazi, where the targets of their invective is getting more and more towards the center, and eventually it's going to include just normal, everyday Republican type people, and it already is. Like Ben Shapiro.
It already does.
It already does. And when you pair that with the idea of internalized oppression, it no longer matters if you're not white. You will literally be called a white ethno-nationalist if you're not white. And if
yeah, of course. I mean, like God Sart's been called like a white supremacist or something, or a Nazi or something, and he's like a Lebanese Jew, and he's brown as he's brown and Jewish, and he's been called a Nazi.
So we have this 18-minute long video from Carlos. I forgot his last name.
Are we going to show it, or because I've written down like all the main points we could go through?
Well, I have it.
We can provide a link to the video.
You just want to do that because I have the video here, but we don't have to. Yeah, we can go by point. If you guys want to see this video, we'll have it linked at the bottom after this stream, just so you know we didn't take it and edit it and chop it up and make a straw man. We're going to answer it honestly.
I'm trying to be as philosophically charitable as possible with my approach. As far as I'm aware, I've just written down essentially what he was saying. If I've made a mistake, then Carlos can inform us, and then the next one we'll correct ourselves. So I say the first important point he makes is the 3 reasons of presence within the group. The first one is they're simply a fan of Sargon. The second one is they want change to a system, such as the United Kingdom, or they just want to be in a group. And I do think that is 3 important distinctions to be made. So,
I don't think it's so much of a dichotomy. That's my problem. It's not either or. You can be a little bit of each. You can be a lot of one and a little bit of the next. To pass judgment on people like that based on what you think they are, there's no need for it.
No, I think what his point was, though, people who are trying to get involved in the discussion they don't seem to like actually understand the importance of it. Rather, they're just there to talk because they're a fan of Sargon. Whereas I'm pretty sure Carlos wants people to be there in order to benefit the group. So that's why that's the second option of wanting change.
Yeah, but
so they can actually contribute.
that's in every system. It's the Pareto principle or Matthew's law. It's like, yeah, there's going to be, let's say you have 1,000 members. There's only going to be maybe what, 30, 40 really.
The top 20% contributing 80% of the actual, like, let's say, income for the group.
Yeah, so I would,
which would just be the actual discussion. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got like.
I disagree. I disagree with him. I'm just saying I think these are good distinctions to be making.
Yeah.
What was
to interpret the group?
I missed the beginning. What was his three issues?
Okay, no, the three reasons he thinks people would be in the group are: they're simply a fan of Sargon, they want change, is the second one, and the third one is they just want to be in a group. Now, I think
is there actually any
the people
problem
who want
with
change. No, I'm fine with people being in the group if they're a fan of Sargon, if they just want to be in a group. Especially since even if they're not contributing, they're going to be reading what we're saying, and it could be influencing them or changing what they think. And they then may use what they've learned in discussions outside of Facebook, which means they could start a domino effect by changing more and more people's minds. So I'm not against them being there.
You got to remember though, and I don't want to sound like a cultist here, but Sargon is probably one of our biggest draws into the group, into the movement. And now, if I would be happy if, like Dan just said, I'd be happy if 1,000 members join the group just because they want to be in a group that Sargon's in. I'd be happy if only 20 of those members actually want to become activists.
Yeah, it's like a Death Singer in the comments. He's saying he falls into all three. I fall into the fan of Sargon, and I fall into want to make a change. I don't really want to be. I don't want to be in a group. I don't actually care. But the first two,
I don't necessarily believe in. I don't necessarily follow the third one, but the first two, the fact that I'm a fan of Sargon got me into it, and I've always wanted to do something and talk to other people about what we can do. Yeah. So the fact that I am a fan of Sargon got me into that. But overall, I'm not necessarily interested in being part of the group. If I could do it by myself, honestly, I would. But I can't do it by myself, and we need as many of us as possible.
I've run for political office myself in my city. I'm going to keep doing that. I go to City Hall twice a month for the alderman meetings, and I make statements based on what they're voting on, and I keep a very close eye on my elected officials. That's something that I'm going to continue doing whether or not this group exists or not. It's just nice. It's really nice to know there's other people who feel this way, like politically homeless. That's how I've felt for the last 3 years.
Actually, politically homeless is like from Dave Rubin's thing. I started my own group before the Liberalists, like about a year ago, called the Outcentrists, which is essentially something like this, but that's completely on my own. So it's good that I found a home, really.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I'm looking forward to the more meaty stuff as well that's to come. Sorry, Kook.
No problem. Yeah, well, it's like I saw it and I'd just been sitting on this for like 2 years. It's like, oh, do I want to get political? I'd like to actually get known and I'd be interested in I'm interested in getting into a creative career. It's like at this point, it's like, screw it. I'm not going to get into a career where I have to hide what I think 24/7. So I either stand by what he fucking says now, or I just have to eat it for the rest of my life.
Well, it was Christopher Hitchens who said there's enough time to be quiet in the grave.
Yeah, that's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is my main fucking I'd say he's my not my idol, just
he could be your idol. There's nothing wrong with him being your idol.
No, I'm not gonna do any idol shit, alright?
Shiny and golden.
Sargon's your idol?
Yeah, he's my golden cow, so to say.
I mean, he's really stepped down since his days of ruling the first Mesopotamian Empire, but I mean, he's doing pretty good for himself.
I mean, he went from the river to owning an empire to now owning a YouTube empire, so it's not too bad. He's becoming progressive with modern technology.
Yeah. I mean, most people from back then just have not kept up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what the hell is Nebuchadnezzar been up to lately? That dude has been quiet as a dead man.
No, Nero got kicked off of fucking Twitter.
I know.
Well, no.
Yeah, they got rid of Nero.
That's fucking outrageous.
I mean, Caesar did a pretty good move to Vegas, but a big commercial.
He is in every dressing aisle.
His salad is really nice. I've been told.
That's a nice salad.
Yeah, I used to like him, but fucking vegans.
Thou shalt have no god before Kek. I agree.
All right, we're way off
Kek is
base
the-
here. Let's go back to Carlos's video.
Kek is the god of chaos.
All right, so after those three, what else you got, Brennan?
I've got a sub note. The idea of political LARPing. I think I think it comes along the line of Antifa. Essentially, people who are LARPing as activists rather than wanting to actually make a change. But again, if they're contributing to the overall discussion, I don't really have a problem with it. Because even if they're wrong, they're going to raise points which can be corrected and may lead to us reflecting on our own points and then developing ourselves further.
Yeah, that's the engine of free speech.
All right, so so that's the idea of the three reasons of presence. The next one I've got is the principle of meritocracy. So he's wondering, will government have to enforce meritocracy? So he's going to say, essentially, will it become a fascist state? And I think the problem Carlos is having here is it's an understandable problem. I think he's confusing principles of the person with principles of the state.
Right.
As I see it, the principles that Sargon has laid forward, whether or not you believe they were written by someone who's in second grade, they are the way a person is going to approach the world. I see the principles as beliefs upon which a person will base all of their actions, rather than a state building laws off of these principles. So, for instance, a person would have the principle of meritocracy, so they would choose to hire for their company the best people.
Here's the thing about principles is that...
Well, it's just in their own interest, really, if it's a company. So, because obviously you're here to make money. So, if you don't hire the best person, you don't only earn suffering.
Right. The thing is about principles that in their extremes...
I mean, those is. Does he mean like by anti-discrimination laws? Is that what he mean?
He means...
No. He means that will we force people to hire the best person? And I think, and I'm
No,
just
you hire who you like, really.
I think all you'd have to do is prevent. I think all you'd have to do is say, just if there were to be government intervention in this, would be, don't allow them to discriminate based on anything other than their skills related to the job. But because then you would remove you'd get meritocracy because it would be all that's left,
right,
as opposed to it. But I'd prefer it not go to the state has to enforce it.
Here's the deal: every principle in its extreme is detrimental to freedom. Every principle in its extreme. So merely pointing out that because if you do this in an extreme way, it's bad. No offense, but
so
really, come on.
It's why we have more than one principle.
Exactly, they have to tie into each other.
Like, what do you think of extreme freedom of speech? Will this allow you to threaten other people? No, we generally also believe in the principle of, protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this needs to change in the UK. The fact that you can't defend yourself is bullshit.
I was reading somewhere where
I was reading...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead, Bill.
So I was reading the statutes of freedom of speech laws in the UK, and it specifically defines insult as a custodial term. So if you insult somebody, and you insult them enough that the state has to step in, you will literally go to prison for it.
Hey Billy, you're a cuck.
I'm telling my fucking piece of you.
I'm telling the state about you.
Every last one of you is a fucking cunt.
Like, the thing is I think it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because Jordan P. Peterson said it in the Channel 4 debate the other day, and I don't think I've ever heard it. I mean, I may have done, but I don't think I've ever heard it articulated so well. And it's the notion that you can be imprisoned for the potential to offend someone. Well, everything you say has the potential to offend someone on some level, unless you just walk around speaking this non-binary, totally straightforward language, which nobody does. Exactly, yeah.
Well, even then,
I just said non-binary is just triggered myself, so I better fucking go to prison. I better go and fucking lock myself up.
The thing is...
Well,
go
ahead. And then you also have the progressives will tear each other apart because even amongst them, it's still not inoffensive enough.
Yeah.
I think you should have the right not to be attacked physically or harmed, but I don't think you should have the right not to be offended, because that's too subjective.
I disagree. I just got to cut in here, Johnny. I don't think you can have the right to not be harmed, because to not be harmed is compelling others. I'd say you have a right to defend yourself.
No, I mean physically. I seen like no one can punch you in the face, kind of thing.
No, I don't think you can have the right to that. You can have the right to defend yourself, because to say that you have a right to forcing other people not to do something is.
I mean, the negative rights of like not be, not other people impose themselves. Like
the negative.
my nose kind of thing.
All right.
Do you agree with that?
That makes sense. Yeah.
I
I don't like the way you're wording it, but I know what you mean. So I'm gonna say for now we can just let that one slide.
we want the same outcome, really, and we have roughly the same principles.
When I publish my book, you'll agree with my wording.
I don't think everyone has the capability of defending himself. So what if like a 6'2" person punch a 4-foot midget? Then you have the right to defend yourself. Bang.
Yo,
What next?
You just said midget. That's a microaggression, isn't it?
That is.
That's sizist. I'm gonna have to ban you from the stream.
I shall report myself to the thought police.
Look, when it comes to freedom of speech, personally, I'm of the opinion that all speech is free and non-compelled unless you are inciting violence on others. Apart from that, I don't care whether somebody says a racist word. I don't care. The thing is you're not free from societal consequences, but you should be free from state intervention unless you are directly inciting violence against someone's life. Because speech in itself isn't violent.
You got defamation.
Even then, reading On Liberty, I've been going through On Liberty, and one of the things John Stuart Mill talks about is, like, this is regarding the corn laws, if you had someone in front of a corn dealer screaming "death to corn dealers" in a public square amongst people who hate corn dealers, you have every right to arrest and detain that person for saying it, but only in so much as to prevent the continued action, not in a sense to be punitive for what he said.
I think I drew the distinction between an opinion and a call to action. I think that would be my distinction between saying I think so and so should die, or let's kill so and so. That would be a distinction between call to action and an opinion.
Yeah. Let's go back.
I think there's a further distinction to be made, because like you often get those you often get those land whales with the blue hair. They will say like kill all men. They may have the desire to kill all men, but I doubt they would ever be willing to do so. I think the distinction between desire and willingness is also a point that needs to be addressed, because somebody may want to do something, but it doesn't mean they would ever be willing to do it.
Yeah, the Supreme Court, I believe, sets the.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, though. They can incite others to do it.
Oh, so it's the inciting of others who would be willing. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Incitement to violence. So it's called it's called the action, isn't it?
If you're standing in
I mean, Hitler might not have necessarily shot somebody himself, but he's telling someone else to do it. It's still the same thing in the principle.
Okay, yeah.
You'd have to look at the exact. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily.
Yeah, the circumstances, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were in that circumstance that Mill states, you're in front of a bunch of corn farmers or corn fuckers, and someone's in the back going "death to all corn fuckers." Yeah, he's allowed to say it. It's when he points to one particular person or group of people, and says, "Go kill those corn fuckers." Now you can't. That is the line that is drawn by the Supreme Court, pointing out particular people, call to action, like John says, and you can't say kill that corn fucker, right?
Because you can
even
express your dislike or to any group of people. That should be a part of your freedom of speech. But as soon as you start call to action to cause harm to that group of people, that's where you cross the line. That would be what I would think. I don't know whether you agree or not, but that's what I would say.
We're pretty much in agreement. Let's go back to Carlos's video, because this is why I wanted to play it, so we'd stay on track.
Yeah. No, we are on topic.
I haven't even watched the video.
But yeah, so with the meritocracy, we all agreed that we would not enforce meritocracy. Yeah. Let's see. Oh yes, I'll read what I've got written down here. Essentially, if a company wants to fuck itself over by not hiring the best people, they are free to do that. So it goes to the idea of the baker baking the bread for monetary gain, but by doing so he helps other people. So a business owner will want to make more money, so he will hire the best people, and by doing so, the people who have worked hardest in life are going to get the most benefit. He made a point. I've written down Spencer in charge ? And I cannot remember what that point was about, though, sadly. I think it was about the need for a specific person in charge. Oh no! Oh shit! Here's something I've got. Does anyone know who muted Carlos? Because he said he was muted. Do you want to quickly ask this?
Oh, we already
Wasn't me.
we already went through that. It was done a while ago.
Did we?
It was Frank.
Oh yeah, he's been muted once.
What was it
yeah.
about? I never.
Civility.
It was in this thread about meritocracy, and
Oh, okay.
there was crossed wires where he wasn't getting that we weren't talking about government enforced, and he was conflating principles with policy. He started typing in all caps, called another person stupid. I think he said one person, "You're so stupid, just shut the fuck up," or something similar like that. To paraphrase, so when you listen to this later, don't take that in the wrong way. I'm paraphrasing. Look that up, and you can't have that. Because
I just got to say I'm gonna have to leave now. Thanks for talking. Hope we can do that again.
Hey, what's the
Oh,
Reddit?
yeah,
what's
nice.
the Reddit called, Connor?
It's U Kukanusa, KUCANUSA.
Okay, what's the Reddit for the Liberalists that you're an admin of?
Oh, R Liberalist, capital L.
Nice. All
Is
right.
it liberalist or liberalist? Because previously it was liberalist. Have you guys changed it to liberalists to be consistent now?
I think it's just liberalists. Or sorry,
Is that with an S at
Yeah,
the end?
could you check? Because previously it
Singular or
was
plural? Plural.
Yes,
yeah,
singular,
let me check.
singular, plural.
By the way, where's Frank?
Ah,
He's,
He's doing
sorting
taxes with his
money.
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just liberalist with an L,
so it's singular.
capital L.
Yeah,
Singular.
Yeah,
I think
singular.
is it possible to change our liberalists to be consistent with our other handles?
I'll check.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta get going now. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's
See
good.
you
Alright,
later,
look,
dude.
Like,
See you later,
See you
puck
soon.
fucker.
Have a good one.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So, are we finished with Carlos's video? Or we
No,
Oh
got
no,
carry on?
no, there's quite a few
No.
more points. All right. Well, where is it? Okay. He had a good point here, and I think I remember why I put down Spencer in charge. Okay. So he had an idea of let's say we had a liberalist state. His exact example is let's say for instance we annex Scotland, which I'm not opposed to. He said it doesn't matter how hard we work. Within 3 generations, we will be dead, and what we have said will be open to interpretation. And he thinks that's a big problem. And I agree, because look at America, and here's the point he makes, look at the American Constitution. People are now arguing over interpretations of the Constitution, rather than being Constitution, I think it's just Constitution literalists, the idea of, if it's written down there, that's what they meant. So yeah, what do you guys think about that? The idea of we're going to have to make what we mean plain as day, so we
as
can't be
concise
faffing
as
about.
possible. I like to
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson. You have to formulate your arguments as carefully as possible and as concise as possible. So yeah, I think that there's some.
You have
We
to.
definitely have to be articulate, yeah.
You have to be
But to
articulate.
be honest with you, I think people are really, really jumping the gun on what we're, or not necessarily what we're about, but what I feel that I want to do, is I don't necessarily want to build a whole new political system. I just want to uphold liberalism. I just want to make sure individual rights and the principles set forth on the website
What I see it more as
are
is-
held, and I want to do that by actually doing something about it, rather than just arguing with people on Twitter and that.
What I'm seeing
So,
it as is
while
more
everybody
of a-
gets deep in the policy and all that, the policies are there. We may need to rescind some, but where we're at now is a pretty decent. I mean, in terms of what's actually written in law, there's some definitely needs to go.
yeah, there's some
But
rolling back.
I'm
yeah.
not advocating for some revolutionary act. I just want to make sure liberalism doesn't fall to the cultural Marxists or the racist bloody right.
I see it more as a instead of a
Yeah,
political.
that's a good point there, Billy. How long until they start burning Locke and Mill?
Well, exactly.
I see it more of
But
a.
we
of
don't
a
need to
cultural
change
movement.
policies. Sorry, go on, Dan.
It's like more of a cultural movement than a political movement. It's not necessarily starting a political party to run candidates. It's more of advocating for principles in policy that we want to see, like in the
Yeah,
future,
yeah.
and rolling back.
I
stuff
think it's
is-
too early as well, because we have to set our principles first before we even go into policy. So I think it's a little bit too early to
That-
go into specific policies to enact the principle that we haven't even set in stone completely yet.
That's my problem with Carlos's video and some of the other members of the group. They want to jump the gun and put the principles as they want to put the goal first. They want to put the end first. So we've seen cultures that did it, and it's ironic that he states that nobody learns about communism and how it fell. It's because they valued the ends, so the means were rationalized as they went along. As more people died, it's okay because we're going to this utopia.
Yeah, we're doing it for the people.
Yeah. If you,
Everything is okay if you know that the end goal is going to be perfect. That's what it comes down to. That's what Peterson said. I watched that video about it. It was Dostoevsky. His video on Dostoevsky.
Yeah, but the deal is with I disagree with Carlos's definition of in this video, his definition of principle in the first place, because he's comparing it to, like you said, the principles of a person rather than the laws of a state.
Yeah.
I think they are being consequentialism rather than, you know, deontology. What's it called? Deontological.
Yeah.
Because we are going for principles, they are going for the consequence. Like they're going for the end. So this consequentialism, they will justify anything as long as the end works.
Yeah, yeah. That's why the Soviet Union fell, and like all these other communist states fell. It's, you know, because the ends will never be met. But if the thing about principles is it's the foundation. I mean, you don't start building a ceiling without the, you know, walls. You don't start building the walls without the foundation. So too many people they're skipping the part about having principles, which is very
and that takes time as well. You know, it doesn't come instantly. Like within the community framework as well, you just literally need to give it. You know, you're planting the seed with the initial principles, and then you just allow it to naturally coalesce into and grow in its own manner.
Yeah, even in his
video, if you
video,
just start going, oh well, we should put this in place. Well then, okay, well, but we're just going to conflate this principle, or we're going to diminish that particular principle. It's like, well, no, let's just lay these foundations, like you say, and let's just see where it goes, and we'll chop and change slowly and informative as we go through it.
He even says in his video that they spent days arguing about. No, they spent years talking about this.
400 or 500 years to build liberalism to what it was.
Well,
what it was until the 70s.
The Declaration of Independence is a continuation of Locke. As far as I'm aware, when they say, you know, we have these inalienable rights through natural law, or like by the right of nature, they're referring to Locke's account of nature, whereby we have rights because of God. So it's a continuation of Locke, as far as I'm aware. So yeah, it's at least 150 years.
Even if you want to look at the writing of the Declaration itself, a good book to read would be the Will to Power. It's about Thomas Jefferson and.
By Nietzsche.
No.
Robert Greene, isn't it?
No, hold on. There's.
I've got Nietzsche's Will to Power.
Robert Greene, isn't it?
Hold on a second, I'll find it. It's a book about Thomas Jefferson called like The Will to Power or.
Okay.
48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene, yeah.
No.
Is that the one?
No.
No, different one.
There it is. The Art of Power by John Meacham. Details. It's one of the best biographies I've ever read, and it's huge. It's massive, but it goes through in very, very fine detail the creating of the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights and all that, and it takes them a long time. It's not over a long weekend in a vacation home. It's a long time, especially when you consider like the amount of traveling they had to do. So I completely disagree with the thought that it took them days. No. It takes a long time to set your foundational principles, especially when you know it's the most important part.
Yeah, because that's what not Nietzsche. So that's what Descartes talks about in his Meditations. You look at all of these different realms of thought, and eventually, when you actually look into them, they're built upon pillars of salt and sand. And one big gust of wind, and they are going to collapse. It doesn't matter how strong the walls are; the foundations themselves are prone to failure. So that's why the principles are so important.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the most in architecture. It's the most important part of the structure of the building.
It's quite important to realise that our group is actually only 9 days old. So I think people are jumping the gun a bit going to policies. We're 9 days old. Calm down.
Have you got any more points?
I think we've done well for 9 days, though.
Yeah,
we're growing. You can see it's been a quick growth as well.
And I've been unable to post on Facebook for the past 6 days. So yeah.
I mean, I got called a bourgeois liberal for the first time in 30 years of life.
You are a bourgeois liberal. Oh,
I'm
do
a
you want me to tell
bourgeois.
you? Do you want me to tell you what that means?
Dude, if anyone
If you don't know.
uses crypto Marxist language like that, you can ignore them.
Ridiculous. No, go on, Brennan.
Basically, it is just an appropriation of bourgeois socialism. In Karl Marx and Engels, what's it called, the Communist Manifesto. There is a section on the bourgeois socialists. They say these are the bourgeoisie who buy into socialism in order to better the world for the working class, for the proletariat, in order to keep themselves in their position. And you know what's fucking hilarious? The bourgeois socialists fucking won. Marx is rolling in his grave because there was no uprising. The bourgeoisie changed everything, and now they're still in positions of power. So yeah, a bourgeois liberal is someone in a position of power who is essentially going to make people more free in order to better themselves for the sake of self-improvement rather than for the sake of the individual.
I see. Yeah.
Random?
I'm trying to decide under that definition whether or not I'm a bourgeois liberal.
Well, the question is, are you going to improve are you doing this for the sake of pushing your own career or for the sake of the individual?
Well, it's certainly not career, but I'm doing it for the sake of myself, my children, and the people around me.
Yeah, I was going to do this
I'm
anyway.
not completely selfless in what I'm doing. I don't want to live in an authoritarian state. I don't want to live, and I don't want my children to live, and I also don't want other people to live in it.
So you are selfish.
Slightly.
I would say that I wouldn't call you a bourgeois liberal because you're not doing it to keep your place in the world, are you? You want to improve it. So yeah, I'd say you're.
I don't want to be relegated to the bottom of the social justice hierarchy, but likewise, I don't want to go to the tip of the evil white man top.
Let me put it a different way. All right, under bourgeois liberalism, all right, if we were to just take liberalism, if it wasn't our system, would you be worse off under liberalism that would come under? The answer is no, because you would still get what you want, so you can't be a bourgeois liberal.
Yeah, no. I'm not appropriating it to. I'm not appropriating liberalism to gain a position or hold a position.
Yeah, that's right.
I am a liberal, and therefore I want to advocate on those principles.
We should be rejecting that label immediately.
Absolutely. To be fair, I'm being facetious for my own knowledge.
Yeah.
Because
it's a good
I'm
thing.
undereducated on it.
It's a good thing, but it's divisive. It's more groupthink. It's not.
It is. It's more Marxist, Hegelian, fucking Platonic systems of power. It's just fucking discard it. We don't want to use their language. We want proper language.
We don't want to use
bourgeois liberalist. I'm changing my Twitter handle as you speak.
No, I mean there's so much more than just two identifying qualities of people. Like, yeah, you're poor, you're working class, or you're the ownership class, or no, like people aren't classes at all. You know, I'm getting sick.
Joe Vlogs has a good point. He says, I do reject the liberal elites though. But Joe, the problem is though that the liberal elites aren't liberal in any sense of the word.
They're not
liberal.
They are genuinely bourgeois socialists. They are the exact definition Marx would use.
Yeah, they are socialists.
I think I've been reading Mises' liberalism.
Oh, you mentioned.
And he calls them. Yeah, he constantly calls them philosophical socialists because they're only socialists in philosophy, not in action. But it has bearing on their action.
None of them pull their money together and start a commune.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point.
And
Bernie Sanders wouldn't be allowed in anyway, would he?
Yeah.
No, they are.
He was thrown out of communism. He was thrown out of communism
because that's what always happens. People just don't work.
Yeah. I mean, back to Carlos's video. I'd really like to see meritocracy put back on the principles list. Maybe not.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe not meritocracy.
I don't know why we can't have self-reliance and meritocracy. Really?
Yeah, because they are. I mean, they are two distinctly different principles in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be self-reliant without being particularly hard-working, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think honestly,
the chat is really good though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brandon. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm just saying that the chat their input's actually quite good, I think. But if we want to move on to Carlos's next point, I think we've covered this bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let me find where I was.
Spencer.
I think like this next point, I think it kind of goes back to the three reasons of presence. I've written down point of exclusion. Do we need to be elitist or exclusionary in pursuit of principles? And I'd say that it's antithetical to be exclusionary in pursuit of principles. We want to treat everyone as individuals, so we want to allow people to actually have an input.
Yeah, it's kind of against the ideal of, or the principle of free speech, isn't it?
Yeah. We want everyone to have their input, because it doesn't matter. It's like there was a post a while back. It's like, oh, are we gonna just be using like legitimate sources? Like, what's a legitimate source? I don't care where the idea comes from. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea.
What would you?
It's like Ratatouille. You know, a good chef can come from anyone can be a good chef.
Yeah.
It's just.
What would you call someone?
It should be based on his own merits. It should be, it should be based on his own.
What would you?
Meritocracy right there.
What would you call someone that grouped people up by their characteristics, ignored the principles in favor of the ends, and said some people shouldn't talk? What would you call that person?
A fucking commie.
Yeah. Right. Now, that was his point. What else does he have?
Oh, let me find it again. It's just like, how would you enforce meritocracy? Well, we agreed that we wouldn't enforce meritocracy, so this whole thing is irrelevant.
You just
really.
remove the barriers.
You would protect
to it, don't you?
Yeah, we would. Yeah.
You would protect meritocracy. You would punish racial identity-based unfair discrimination, not in terms of romantic relationships, because it's never unfair when it's a romantic relationship.
Outlaw affirmative action would be one of them.
Exactly.
Oh, fucking straight off.
It probably hurts. It probably hurts Asians more than it hurts whites. At least in America, it does.
It does. It's because Asians are
It does actually. Yeah, that's why. For my own group interest, obviously.
Let's see. There's one more point. At the end of the video, he says from at least from what I remember hearing, he essentially said everyone in principle should have a house or job, or at least he was raising the question: should people in principle have a house or job? And I say no.
Well,
nobody should have anything unless they work for it.
Well, Hayek even stated himself, and he was always known as a big libertarian. Hayek said he can see the argument for national health care and ensuring people had the bare minimum.
Well, I see it from a pragmatic point of view. It's obvious. I had this same conversation with someone actually, because they raised the question in the group, and they raised good arguments. It's like, pragmatically, it's good for the nation because you have like disease control, and obviously you keeping your workers fit and healthy, so the nation's more productive.
Education, pragmatically, is a good thing.
Exactly, yeah. But my philosophy on it is that it should be voluntary. If I should only have to volunteer to pay the tax for national health insurance. Because I have a problem at the moment where I have the problem.
Yes.
But then you run into the problem of people not paying until they get ill.
Just have private healthcare. I
think the public option
with the NHS.
I think the
it's
public
always going to be you're
can,
going to pay loads in, and then other people are going to use it.
Yeah.
Actually, that made me sound evil. What I mean is, you can be healthy your whole life, and you can be paying into the NHS your whole life, but the people who are going to be using it most are the people who are going to be living the unhealthy lifestyles. Obviously, if people are born with illnesses that...
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you go to the emergency room for stuff. I mean, I had a retina detachment. It's not like an unhealthy health style stuff. You still happen. Accidents happen.
What I mean is, if people live their life eating a shit ton of unhealthy food, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking every night, why should it be on everybody else to be responsible?
Self-responsibility.
Self-responsibility.
I think this balance should be struck on incentives, like incentivizing. Maybe even something like tax credit, or like basically like if you keep a minimal level of health, you have some financial incentives. In relation to tax.
Yeah,
So instead of forcing people out, you give incentive people to do good, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
So what we would do is we would use like the American healthcare system of depending on how healthy you are, depends on how much you pay in essentially, or if you even get covered. But obviously everyone would get covered. You just pay
No,
more.
I mean, you obviously should have a baseline of people with accidents and stuff, and they have to be covered. Otherwise, it's just
Oh no,
it's not
yeah, no,
not good
I'm
for
not against
developed
that.
nation to have people dying when they don't have to die.
Yeah, well, here's the
Genuinely.
thing.
Oh no.
It's a big lie in America that people die through lack of care. By law, if someone comes to the emergency room, you got to treat them. We have over a dozen different social programs that help the low-wage people, low-income people get health care when they need it. We also have the best cancer survival rate in the world.
Yeah, because what you don't want to do is end up like China, where people will literally be taken in the hospital room. They'll actually ask you to pay up front, otherwise they wouldn't even operate on you. So you need to have some sort of balance between the two, really.
Italy and Japan have a similar healthcare system where there is private options. I always believe that if you have a public option, that's okay as long as it doesn't stop the private option.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
people,
yeah.
like what I don't get about ANCAPs is they will say, "Oh well, we can just pay for our own police," and it's like you can do that already. You can hire a security team, can't you?
Well, then what
I
if?
mean-
Yeah, but what if somebody richer than you hired their security to fight yours, and then you lose? It's just feudalism, really.
Yeah, which is why you have,
Yeah, you need
That's why the state has monopoly on force.
Yeah.
Is to make sure
Yeah,
that
exactly.
doesn't happen.
someone's mic is getting really shitty. Whose mic is that?
I think it was Billy's.
Is it
Billy?
mine?
Yeah, I
Well,
think
if we take turn to speak, and we find out. Hello.
Hello there.
Hello?
I may not be a smart man, but I know what love is.
I wasn't actually talking for a while then, so I'd be surprised if it was mine.
Oh,
Or is it mine?
I don't think it was talking. I think
Are
it
we
was
back to
working,
normal?
so- Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Right, carry on.
What else did this Carlos guy say? Huh?
Charlie Townsend, you can introduce tax on sugar, drugs, and tobacco.
There
Or
already
we
is
could
tax on
decrease
it.
Yeah. There is.
When people say you can introduce tax to something and it stops people from doing it, then I ask.
Doesn't really.
No, it does. Then I ask,
bit.
what is income tax for then? To stop people from making income.
I don't necessarily agree with I don't necessarily agree with that argument anyway. As a smoker, year on year the tax has gone up and up and up and up to the point now where
It's like £12 a pack
it's like £12 a pack. And although I have given up smoking now, but that was for health, not for.
A lot of people have given up smoking.
It was like £4 back in my days.
I remember it was £1.90.
Philadelphia introduced a tax on soda here in the States at about, I think, 50% tax increase on soda, and
it's disgusting.
Eventually they had to fire the workers from the soda place. They had to fire people because of it. It was ridiculous. A lot of people bought less soda, or what they did was they bought larger containers of soda, so they didn't have to.
So they drink more.
Yeah.
But they would save money in the long run.
They save money by drinking more.
Yeah.
Using taxes doesn't have the outcome you think it does.
Well, but
People need to be held responsible for their own fucking mistakes. We shouldn't be charging them more to fuck themselves up. Just let them fuck themselves up.
I think again, maybe if we like before, some sort of positive incentive as well as education might be more important than simply just taxing. I mean, obviously taxation could be a policy, but I think we need to have some incentives and some education.
Johnny, what better incentive is there to be healthy? Seriously, what better incentive is there to living a happier, longer life?
That's a good point.
Exactly.
That McDonald's tastes really nice.
So you got me there.
But it's true though, isn't it? People would often rather choose pleasure over health.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think it's a problem of policy or politics. It's an ontological problem. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
They did a study. I forgot. Never mind. What else does our buddy Carlos say?
Gentlemen, I've only got half an hour left, and I'd really like to touch on this post that the alt-right sent me, if you like, or if we've got more on Carlos.
I'll put it up here now.
No, that's the end of Carlos, and actually we covered not so sober gamers question about healthcare as well. Yeah, sorry, not so sober gamer. That was a good question about healthcare. Thank you.
I mean,
if we want to do the picture.
I don't think.
But is Frank actually going to join us? Somebody give him a bell. Is Frank actually going to?
Who? If he was going to join us, he'd have joined us by now. Let's just carry on.
All right, let me get a picture
so
We haven't now
But
introduce
those-
this poster.
Can we share the poster? I can't find it.
I
Here
got
is.
it. I got it. I got it. Just introduce it. It's on the stream now.
Or you can see it on the
I can't
screen.
see it.
So a member of the alt-right sent me this picture on Twitter, and I must admit it's the first time I've seen concrete wants. So now, why they're not principles, they are wants, but it's the first time we've seen these wants, and I thought it'd be a good to critique them from our position of liberalism,
Now, should we
as they critique liberalism on their position.
should we say this is not an official document of the alt-right? I mean, where is this from?
Well,
No,
I know,
this
it's not
is the
an
alt-right
official document, but it was sent to me by
This is everything they've ever said in one.
exactly
In one,
in one meme.
yeah.
So I thought it'd be good to give it some critiques.
Or even if not critique it, because
Well, we could
So
compare
I reckon
critique
there's
it
probably
against
something
liberalism.
to
I
this.
think.
Yeah. We'll just like look at it.
So, shall I reel off number one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
start with
read,
number one.
read number one.
So, number one, strong, high trust communities for our people. We reject immigration and favour homogenous societies.
I think as far as strong, high trust communities for our people, that applies to every single society ever. It just depends on who is our
Who is our people?
and who decides.
Oh, they just mean crackers. We reject immigration and favour homogenous societies. So I'm not against immigration. I'm against mass immigration. I'm for a meritocratic immigration. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Immigration isn't for or against. It's not just a binary option. It's been how you implement it and what type of people you let in. So it's not just are you for it or against it. It's a false dichotomy right off the bat.
Oh shit, guys! I got a question. Can there be tourism in the ethno state?
Yes, can there? only
You
from
can't
white
have
countries.
A bunch of brown people walking through New York, can you?
Your passport will have a drop of blood on it with a DNA test on the passport itself.
How dare those Chinese people spend all their money taking pictures of Big Ben in London?
Yeah, this is our white state.
All right, I did a lot
See,
of.
I'm of the notion of even if you have immigration, all right, mass immigration is bad because it doesn't allow time for integration, etc.
It also
but immigration in of itself doesn't
a disadvantage to the working class.
Say that again, Brendan.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Oh yeah, mass immigration. It's always going to affect the lower classes more.
And
Yeah,
it's-
because the lower classes are the ones that are coming over
So
in
yeah,
mass migration.
if people care about the working class, then they should be against mass immigration.
You're right. I agree.
I'm against it because it's unreasonable.
Yeah.
But then again, I
Yeah.
just want to posit that I come from some pretty rough areas, and I come from two mainly rough areas, and one of them was predominantly white, and it was not a strong high trust community by any means, and the other one was diverse, and nor was it strong high trust community either. So immigration doesn't necessarily, or race doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a strong high trust community for our people.
No, there's correlation. It's true. I've done a lot of reading on homogeneous societies and such. In the short to medium term, a diverse population within an urban area will have low trust and community involvement in the short term. Now, the studies I've read have shown me that people identify closer to their religion rather than their ethnicity. They place it higher than they would their ethnicity. A lot of times what happens, it's called bonding social capital. Social capital is what happens when you have networks you can use to get ahead in society. For instance, most people get their jobs from who they know, not what they know. Most of them, it's connections.
This is why I'm unemployed, because I don't know anybody.
You have bonding.
I'll get you a job.
You have bonding social capital within the group of this similar background. It becomes bridging social capital when people stop being hermits, and the government needs to do a better job of integration by not letting in people that are against the cultural values we hold, and stop this mass migration nonsense, because it only helps the oligarchic interests. I mean, there's no doubt to that at this point. In America, all they want is cheap labor at Google. Like, I just read something today. I read something today where close to the in Silicon Valley, the amount of visas they're using is monstrous, and they pay them less than they would American workers. And they say they have this obnoxious, elitist sniff about them when they say, "Oh, it's jobs Americans can't do." That is absolute garbage. Just like when they say it's jobs Americans won't do. You kidding me? I'd clean toilets.
It's garbage too.
It's jobs Americans won't do at that wage. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
People will literally
And
do anything.
It's also
if they have
it's
a
also
need for
jobs
money.
it's jobs the middle class won't do. That's what they mean.
No, that's,
Yeah, yeah.
if I can just finish my point on what I've been reading.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, in 1900, 1910, marriage was very caste-like, where Americans were not marrying outside of their ethnic group. Italians would marry Italians, Irish would marry Irish, so on and so forth. By 1990, only 20% of white Americans had spouses of an identical ethnic background. Only 20%. The thing is, in the long term, new social capital is built through shared experiences at church, at work, at school, and when Black Swan events happen. And it's about every 80 years in America. Where Pearl Harbor happened, the Japanese got interned. Sorry about that. That sucks. That was a progressive in office. That was FDR, progressive. That's his fault. And we know progressivism is racism, so it makes sense. But those kind of events turn the bonding social capital into bridging social capital. So yes, in the short term, they're right. But just like every other ideologue, they're not thinking beyond the short term.
The thing is,
Okay,
from personal observation alone, and I know my feelings don't mean anything, but from personal observation alone, just because a community is predominantly or all white doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a high trust community. Because I come from a community that was predominantly white, but it was crime riddled, there was burglaries, fights, stabbings, muggings, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So just
I think
because
there's an important question to raise here, though. How could you trust people in a collectivist society that might kill you if you go against the people? I couldn't trust them.
That's what happens. Every
Yeah.
ideology like that, it's all paranoia. You have secret police spying on their own families. You know?
Oh, fucking
Yeah.
children! Like, it's like 1984. The children fucking grassing on their parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to
And
number?
that's gonna happen.
You want to move to number?
Well, that
two?
happens in comedy all the time.
All right, Billy, do you want to read it? Number 2.
sorry, someone else will have to read it because
I got it.
I've just restarted my computer.
Okay.
Protection from.
Number 2.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Brandon.
you go.
No, you got it, Brandon.
Okay. Number 2. Protection from third world outsourcing. We support tariffs designed to protect domestic industry.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, it's another short term. It's bad in the long term.
Well, yeah, it's a short-term thing because it depends if you want to have free trade or not, really. As in, like, free market.
Right.
Hello?
The thing
I'm
is,
not entirely against it, outsourcing, simply for the fact that it allows other countries to grow economically. We can't just... It's like, there's a video on YouTube, I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially like, we need to let these third world countries have these shit jobs that pay them fuck all. Because when you look at our economic situation, we didn't just start off at like £7 an hour, which is what it is now for someone my age. We have to go incrementally. You can't expect everyone to jump because it's just not viable.
Yeah.
So by outsourcing, we're allowing them to grow.
Right. And the
But what
problem-
if said outsourcing affects the bottom end of society?
It would actually.
What if there are jobs that I know what you're saying. It
Yeah.
can actually raise the bottom end of our
But
society.
then if you don't outsource, you get inflation. So it's kind of you lose either way, really.
It depends on
In
the-
which case, people won't be able to buy the new iPhone. I don't actually care.
Well, I'm looking at it in the States here, and
Yeah.
it depends on the situation. I wouldn't make it a point of a platform wherein this is what is going to happen no matter what. You have to look at the situation. Like during the Great Depression, we passed the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, and the kind of protectionism caused a kind of trade war where world trade dropped 65%. You know, and
Jesus.
it really just exacerbated things, especially in Germany. Now, there's certain times when you do want to have a tariff, but I think it should be up to the decision of experts in trade, customs and such, that they can look at an industry, they can go, oh, there's too much of this good coming in from other countries, and our domestic factories are suffering. We're going to put a tariff on this because they're flooding the market. And you don't want to do it too long. You don't want to do it so much where they fight back with more protectionism, but you want to do it so at least the market can stabilize. But I'm not an economics expert.
No, because it's mutually harmful. Because obviously you harm your exports as well. If obviously they'll have tariffs on you, you have tariffs on them, and everybody loses in that sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought another point. How are you going to protect from third world outsourcing, except if you, like, for instance, nationalize the company and do not let them have any control?
Wait, you mean they're
Or
going to
are you gonna have to to stop them outsourcing? Aren't you going to necessarily have to take control of companies?
think so? I mean, wait, that would only count if they were national socialists, right?
Or just socialists, or any like Venezuela, for instance. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say many are national socialists.
Are you saying the alt-right are national socialists?
I'm saying that they are Marxists. I'm saying they definitely are Marxist. I'm just not sure if they know this yet.
I'll read number 3, if you don't mind. I know Bill's got to go, so I want to get this.
Yeah, we'll speed up.
All right. Protection from the globalist elite. We reject super PACs and foreign elites purchasing elections. That's already illegal in this country. I don't know why the hell that's on there. I'm surprised that the picture they use is a guy with a top hat and a monocle. I'm surprised there isn't a big Jewish nose in that place.
What you need to remember is the bourgeoisie is just another word for Jewish people.
Right.
So I think we can move on there.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to go to number 4. Number 4 is great. This one is just hilarious. Healthy relationships between men and women. We respect truthfulness regarding sexual differences.
Well,
what do you?
We accept that dimorphism exists, for you know.
You know what? I agree here. I agree with you, right? I'm for healthy relationships between men and women.
Yeah, but how do you do it as a state?
I must admit, I do respect the truthfulness regarding sexual differences.
So do I. But how do you enforce it?
Well, yeah, sexual dimorphism is real.
Yep.
On average, there are differences between men and women.
Women have tits. There we go.
Not all. Hashtag not all.
No, I agree with that. It's just my.
Oh shit! Yeah, sorry.
My qualm is how do you enforce it? How do you enforce that? You know.
How do you enforce what? Sexual differences or healthy relationships?
Healthy relationships. How do you enforce that?
Well, you don't. It's impossible to enforce. Isn't it?
You'll be allocating your wife.
Yeah, wife allocation or husband.
Oh, have you seen that episode of Black Mirror where they have the dating app?
Oh yes, I've seen
simulations.
Yeah.
The alt-right are going to have to create it in order to have healthy relationships they can enforce.
I think it's Frank.
Hey, Frank.
Go on, guys. What's up?
Hello, Frank.
Hey guys, do you know? Guys, do you know what other group had a system for setting up relationships?
What group is that?
Well, let's just say the Big Brother is watching.
You know what though? A lot of cultures have arranged marriages, so it could be something like that.
Oh, it's not just arranged. This is essentially like state mandated, and you can't be too attracted to them either. It can't be love.
You don't want to be too attached. You want people attached to the state, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be caring about your partner more than the white race, do you?
It's true. What? I'm gonna go to number 5, so Bill doesn't have to run. Number 5, protection from globalist pollution. We support regulations designed to preserve our natural heritage.
So what we're going to do is we're going to annex China. I don't know what they're going to do.
I will say, if you want to curb global warming, your best bet is to get the factories out of third world countries and developing nations like China and India, because they have no standards. Bring them to America.
Oh, so you're saying that five works in conjunction with 2. So if we don't outsource, then we stop the globalists from polluting as well.
I think that's how it would work. Now that's not a bad point. It's just worded awkwardly. You know.
I mean, you could have regulations that if you outsource, they still have to comply with certain pollution regulations for your company or something like that.
And the cost would be too great. They wouldn't outsource. The reason they outsource is because it's cheaper. So enforcing
Yeah.
first world regulations on a developing nation just doesn't
Well,
work.
it's a bit like EU at the moment because they are so, like there are regulations for like pollutions and like carbon footprints and all sorts of things. So it's a bit like that.
The EU is still around. That's cool.
Just about, I think.
All right, number
Not
6.
long, don't worry.
Protection.
No, I mean I don't think anyone would be against against protecting natural basically anyone who wants to actually pollute the planet really. So
But it's just a product of the age we're in, isn't it?
Yeah,
At
it's
some
true.
point, we're going to have to cure this, whether you're alt-right, SJW, or bloody liberalist.
Yeah.
There's some
So
good
it's a
comments
not-
I want to quickly read as well. Martin D. Peterson. So what you're saying is that we need to order our society after lobsters.
Yes, most certainly.
Number
Yeah,
number
and
6.
Kingsley Dow, I just want to quickly read as well.
Oh,
Don't
sorry.
the alt-right believe that women should not be seen in public spheres? I do remember hearing some alt-right people say that a woman's place is in the home.
That's it. That's it. That's how you get
Right.
healthy relationships. You don't actually show the relationships.
That's right, yeah.
No, you can't.
No,
You
we
can't call a
don't even
relationship
wear-
unhealthy if you don't know it exists.
Big out as well.
the
Then you-
alt-right
that one
basically
can't
just
even
copies on Sharia law really.
All right, number 6. Protection of cultural diversity. We reject multiculturalism and favor separate cultures.
That's inevitable. Like, what are you gonna do? Stop someone like copying something else?
I agree
Yeah.
with the idea that
No,
I mean,
but
if somebody watch an
No.
idea or a word from a different language and they just copy it, what are you gonna do? Put them in prison?
right.
The thing is how deep do you go with multiculturalism as well? Because even within totally homogenous societies, you will have
Subculture.
different. Yeah, you have subcultures.
Yeah. You don't mix anime with sport.
But we-
It's another one. It's another one of intersectionality kind of thing. It's too like if you can't split, it's an infinite number of possibilities of splitting it. So
Yeah.
it's a non-starter right off the bat.
Acculturation is normal across
Yeah.
cultures. In fact, if you didn't have acculturation sharing between cultures, the culture would die. Now,
yeah.
if you look at it like in America's sense, just one quick point. I think we celebrate St. Patrick's Day harder than Ireland does at this
Then
point.
the Irish do, yeah.
Are you gonna say, Frank?
Yeah, this is just a shit point. That it totally is. I mean, it's completely worded wrong. Multiculturalism is not the same as multilegalism. I mean, Sharia law is shit.
Good
Don't
point,
let it
yeah.
into the country. Don't let other moral codes into the country. But if someone wants to, bake enchiladas, bake lasagnas, have the, corned beef and hash, who the fuck cares if it's the same societal structure?
I think you'll find that's cultural appropriation.
Wait, so
I support it. I will steal
wait a
them
minute.
all.
so they're in favor of. They're using the same SJW logic then. It's
Yeah,
you can't
absolutely.
appropriate
I'm
cultures.
not sure what they mean here. When they say multiculturalism, do they mean what SJWs mean and actually just mean different races?
No, I think
Yes.
they mean No, I think
Yes.
they mean cultural relativism. I think they mean cultural
okay.
relativism. That
Oh no, yeah, okay, yeah.
some cultures are
if
better
they're
than
against
others. The West,
relativism, I agree with you there.
the
Some
West,
cultures
the
are
West
better.
is best. You can
Yeah.
honestly say the West is best. I don't care. I agree
Well,
with that.
England's the best.
Uh,
No, America's got free speech.
nice,
Which part of England?
nice
Uh,
mind.
my house,
We-
my house specifically.
Sorry, yeah.
Leafy Surrey.
We don't have
Leafy
we don't have
It's
madrasas.
actually Birmingham.
Oh yeah, Birmingham.
We got all these
it
Asian
is
sex
multicultural.
pests running around. All right, we're gonna go to point 7 so Bill doesn't miss any.
I cannot wait for the police to come and arrest me.
Protection. Point 7: protection from forced associations. We reject
I
being
agree.
we reject being forced to betray our beliefs and support what we believe is degenerate.
I believe that we each have the right of association as well as the right of privacy. We choose who we associate with, and we choose when we do not want to associate. If they want to,
Okay.
Well,
can I finish
okay,
my
here's
point?
my-
Hold on, let Brandon finish here. Let Brandon finish.
All right.
Because the point is, all right, sure. Me saying this, if somebody does not want to associate with gay people, they're not going to associate with gay people. All right. This does not mean I condone them not associating with gay people. Which I'm not going to force them to do it. Because ultimately, my principles are for each individual. What you do with your principles is up to you, and whether or not you even agree with the principles is up to you. Because ultimately, I'm only responsible for myself.
But what about into the region of anti-discrimination law, like as in?
No. Here's that needs a follow-up question, and the follow-up question for me is the alt-right talking about the right to not associate from the individual to another individual, or are they talking about this quote-unquote degenerate individual inflicting society? That's a different paradigm. And I sincerely believe that they are willing to take this point and expand it to society should not tolerate this individual.
Oh no, of course they would. If you're a threat to the people, then you need to be removed.
Exactly.
It's not them that they don't want protection on an individual level. They want their group protected.
Exactly. They are a threat to the people.
Yeah, they're a threat to them as a group rather than to, because as an individual you have the right to disassociate from another individual.
Yeah.
But they look at it on a group level, don't they?
But to be
Yes,
charitable, let us just assume that they do mean on an individual basis. I don't want to be
Do
uncharitable.
not be charitable with the left or its retarded
No,
cousin.
On principle, I do want to be charitable simply because I did philosophy, and it's the best way to win an argument is to build them the strongest argument they have. And if their argument simply is that they shouldn't have to bake the cake,
Well,
No one wants to bake the cake.
nobody wants to bake the cake. Ultimately,
I agree, but the thing is they're arguing for something they already have.
Exactly.
They already have protection from forced association.
yeah.
If you don't, if you don't want to live next to a black man, then you have the right to move away. But he also has the right to live there.
Yeah, but
you're the one with the problem with it, so you're the one that has to live.
You are free to not hire someone based on that they're black. Because would that be something that they would try to sneak in through that number 7?
Right.
Well, but then it's different, isn't it? The problem then is you're overlapping the rights.
Right. My question for Dickie Spencer would be, why aren't you moving to Montana or Vermont?
Why aren't you moving to Poland?
Dickie. Oh, I thought you said there was someone in the chat called Dickie Spencer. I was looking for him.
No.
Hey Frank, watch the background noise, man. God, sounds like a fire engine. But
Really?
yeah.
Was it a small child by any chance?
Oh, was that you, Bill? There it is.
No, that is a small child. I gotta go.
They got out.
I know the noise. I know the noise up by art.
Kevin Spacey's
All
kids
right.
got out. Run.
I will head you guys out. Talk to you later.
See you later, Frank.
man.
So essentially, I would say, yeah, nobody wants to bake the cake. I would ask Dickie Spencer, why does he live in Virginia if he wants free association? Go ahead and move to Vermont, which is like 98% white, or New Hampshire, which is definitely more conservative. Like you have that option, so go do it. No one's stopping him.
Yeah.
Let's go to
Good point.
Let's go to number 8. Freedom.
I think we all agree with number 8.
Oh yeah.
This
in our
is the best.
Freedom of speech.
This is a liberal point.
Yeah.
It's a very liberal point. Freedom of honest debates, history, race, and sex. We reject political correctness and cultural Marxism, which we all agree.
I think we found something we can fundamentally agree on.
Yeah, 100%.
There is no problem on principle with this.
Yeah. I just don't agree with the...
So I would like to touch... Sorry, go.
No, go ahead, Bill.
Me?
Yeah,
I would just like to touch on the notion of political correctness, though, because I was talking to a friend today and we were talking about political correctness. And I was saying, yes, political correctness is wrong. It's bad, it goes against freedom of speech, it employs too many bloody social tactics. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't be politely correct.
Oh no, you should be civil. But
Yeah,
what
that's what I mean.
What political correctness is, you used the wrong word, therefore we're going to hound you out the job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's like Oscar Wilde said: a gentleman doesn't offend someone unintentionally. You know.
Yeah.
Did he say?
Can't stop them taking offence even when it's not intended, though.
Right.
I believe in your right to speak as much as I believe in your right to make an arse of yourself. That's Oscar Wilde, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I want freedom of thought. everyone to think, because if you don't give people their peace of mind, there can't be peace. And people should be allowed to say what they want, and no matter how ugly it is.
Also, I just want to add, it's very elitist to have all this political correctness. Not everyone is as educated in all this stuff, so it really does hurt the black and ethnic minority communities, which are, as we know, just worse off because I am a progressive.
Yeah.
So
the question I would ask though, for number 8, is sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm so tired. Are they arguing for freedom of honest debate on an individual level, or do they just want their group to have it? Because what I mean is, will they stand for their outgroup members honestly debating them against things that go against their principles?
Once they have control.
They won't stand for it, will they?
Once they have control.
Well, didn't Spencer
control,
admit that in his society they would have to have censorship?
Yes,
Yeah,
he didn't mind having censorship so long as he's the one, implementing it.
Yeah, it's the question.
Yeah.
Do you want to be the lord or do you want to be the serf?
Mm.
Yeah, would you ever be a serf? No, then why ask other people to do it? If you're not happy doing it yourself, do not make other people do it.
Right.
He just never thought he'll ever be the serf.
No, nobody thinks they're ever going to be the serf.
Yeah.
The way I
They
look
work
at
towards
it is,
being the lord, and they get shot in the back. That's the way it always goes.
The back of the head.
I'm half tempted to allow them to create their ethno-state just so I can see Richard Spencer toil in the wheat fields.
all right, let's get to number 9. We got a couple minutes before Bill has to leave.
Yeah.
Protection from
Feel free to carry on without me.
Yeah, I probably will.
Oh, we've been going for like 2 hours, so I think we've got a pretty good length.
Yeah.
I think we had a good run, first run.
Yeah. We had 26 viewers at one point.
Yeah. It's gonna start small.
26,000 next week.
Yeah.
If Sargon fucking shield, then maybe we'd get some fucking viewers. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually did email him, message in the stream.
Remember that question
He's
about
not
some
currently
people?
at home.
There was a question about some
Okay,
people.
number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
Oh, sorry. What was the question? Sorry.
No, there was a question I read earlier where some people were worried that there's certain members of the skeptic community only using the liberalist label because they know the skeptic label is dying, and it is.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. So
Thus is capitalism.
It's been dead for like 4 fucking years.
I
haven't used it in about 4 years.
yeah.
I always found it, and I don't want to use the word, but I always found it a
Cringy.
touch cringy. Yeah.
It is,
It is
yeah.
cringy, man.
I never used it to describe myself. You know, like I
It
said,
was just it's just an easy reference label, wasn't it?
No, I always call myself a socialist.
I always went with classical.
A national
liberal, really.
socialist.
A national socialist, yeah.
I'm a national liberal socialist.
When I ran for
And a
office,
confused attack helicopter.
Ooh, Apache.
Yeah, Kingsley Dow in the chat. So long as it promotes their ideology, they are happy with honest debate. However, as soon as they have control, you're off to the camps.
Yeah.
And these camps will be gulags. They will not be kulaks, which are the ones I'm pushing for.
I advocate kulaks.
Oh
The
shit!
Chad socialist.
Guys, we're at 100 subs.
100 subs. Here we go.
All we
All right.
need is 900 more.
All right, we
Time
got
to make the shekels.
Oh yeah.
we got number 9 here. Let's do number 9. Number 9.
All right, number 9.
Number 9. Protection from international.
Protection from international corporate oppression. We support nationalist economies with a focus on local industry and small businesses.
Define oppression.
Okay.
Having Jews in power.
Yeah. Basically, I don't want to straw man them. I want to take them at their best.
No,
You
no,
know?
it was only jokes.
Yeah. What is corporate
I
oppression?
imagine what they mean by corporate oppression. They fear monopolies.
Yeah.
If there's one business in power, then they can essentially raise prices. They can offer low wage jobs, that kind of stuff. And I
Totally agree.
I need to see examples of international corporate oppressions to fully understand this point, to be honest.
Yeah, it
Because
sounds.
I can agree with a nationalist economy that focuses on small business. Small business is the bedrock of most nations' economies.
Yeah.
So I'd need to see an actual example of international corporate oppression
You
before I
don't
even understand
really
what
need-
they want out of that.
the EU.
You don't really need. You don't really need protection as much as you need incentive for what you want. Trying to get protection just invites worse outcomes, like I said before. I mean,
Well, the question comes: do we have to sacrifice our freedom in order for this protection to be put in place?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
Is it?
it's
Is
Like,
it?
I,
Does it
I
make?
don't know
Does
what
it
this
make the
protection
individual more
entails.
free or less free?
I'm sure they would say more free, but they don't. I don't. As far as I'm aware, they don't care about freedom. They care about securing a future for white children and shit.
We must
Um,
secure the existence of liberalism and a future for all individuals.
yeah.
Cultural
was-
appropriation.
Remember what I said a few weeks ago? Oh wait, man, it's only been 9 days. Remember what I was saying a couple days ago? Where it would be great if we wrote things out, or Sargon did, that made it that it would trigger the far left, but to ordinary working people would just look like very reasonable things.
So I wrote on Twitter actually, and I'm going to be egotistic here. I thought it was quite smart because it was a dig at both the alt-right and the SJWs at the same time. I wrote, while I give thanks to my ancestors, I do not take credit for their achievements, nor do I feel responsibility for their guilt.
Yeah, spot on. That's exactly how it should be.
Yeah. Well, I want
You know what I mean? It goes against both angles.
I want to honor
Yeah.
them because they did sacrifice a lot for me to be here.
Yeah, honor
Yeah, but
and thanks are not
honor
the same
isn't
thing.
honor isn't taking credit for what they did.
Yeah, and the honor is basically just to honor them is to live as the most moral I can.
Yeah, to honor them is to essentially live in thanks. That's the best way I can put it. Yeah.
Right.
That's how I picture it. I live, I live honourably as a thanks to them.
Right.
But I'm not going to turn around and go, oh, look at this world I built just because I'm blood related to someone 200 years ago.
Meanwhile, they have no kids.
To be charitable to them though, they don't say that they specifically. They won't use I anymore, obviously, because they're collectivists, so they have to use we. But they just say white people as a collective did stuff.
Honestly,
So-
as annoying as they
There's
are,
a lot of white people that didn't do anything.
Yeah, like look at us,
as, anno-
including you, Johnny. You're white.
as annoying as I
white
find
and
them,
you're-
I'm not worried about the alt-right so much. Like I said it before. It's
Oh,
like,
white.
yeah, I'm not worried about the alt-white
So-
as much because I find that what they're saying, I might disagree with their analysis at the end of their data, but it doesn't mean their data is completely wrong or that it should be banned. Like, there are real differences between people, like, as groups, but not
Oh, yeah.
individuals. And a little more truthfulness is, there should be no such thing as a hate fact. It should just be facts. There are facts.
Is there such a thing as a hate fact?
They will, yeah, if you just Google it and you look up hate fact, and then all these will
I
show
mean,
up.
let me fucking look this up.
Well, race realism would be a hate fact, wouldn't it? Well, it could be considered as such.
It's-
Well, it's not really
But,
hate fact. They are misrepresenting the facts in order to. So it's not really. It's the same thing.
No, it's their analysis to me that's flawed.
Yeah, exactly.
But the facts are there. I feel they're useful in the terms of moving the Overton window, and we not to use them, but it's better than the far left who wants to close the Overton window. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely. Yeah. They want
And-
to shrink it.
I don't hate anyone based on their ideology. I find them annoying, but I would
Well,
never...
no, I just want to say one thing though. Like, sure, the left want to close the Overton window, but I'm sure if the alt-right were once they accomplish their goals, they too would aim to shut it. Like we said about the idea of, free debate. It's free debate for now. It's free debate until I win the debate.
Yeah. Well, they're both...
Yeah, that was evident in the Spencer stream. That's yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
They would do exactly the same thing, really.
is Lawrence Fishburne white?
He's
They
actually
being white. Have you guys seen it? And someone found it.
yeah.
Someone, yeah. Someone found a guy that looked exactly like him, but he's white.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Native
it was me.
I guess...
Oh yeah, it was
I
you.
said- I tweeted it to Millennial Woes, and he tweeted me back saying, I don't know, I'd have to see his 23 and me.
23.
I-
That 23andMe video was just atrocious. He's so worried the whole time he's about to open it. Then as soon as he opens it, he disregards
He's a-
anything about Africa. But as soon as he
He's a
sees these
racial
white, he's like,
Puritan.
yes. Yeah, of course he is.
It's
thing
not
is, though,
even
I'm
Anglo.
sure I'm
It's
more,
Scottish.
yeah, I'm sure I'm more white than he is. So if we're gonna go along a purity spiral, I'm gonna kick him out.
You know, I just like to say the far left and right are the same in that they're bigots, and you know, a lot of people don't know the real definition of bigot. It's a person who's intolerant towards those holding different opinions. I'm not intolerant of people's different opinions. I don't think any of us are.
No, I
I'm
love
not,
other
no,
people's
certainly not.
opinions. I study philosophy for fun. I live on other people's opinions. It'd be boring with no other opinions.
That's, I mean, can you imagine a world that is all just
Diversity of
completely
opinion.
the same?
The thing is, like, there was an episode of Fairly Odd Parents about that where everyone was the same, and yet there was still fucking division in society.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone was a grey blob. Oh yeah, but I'm a grey grey blob. There's always going to be people who want to be different.
Yeah. I posted a quote earlier about nonconformism.
Mm.
I'm not going to read it out, it's too long and I do have to go. But I do want to finish on this though. I am inventing the term Brendan's Law.
Brendan's Law,
And
fuck yeah.
All live streams will eventually descend to talk about Fairly Odd Parents.
I'm gonna
Point.
fucking do it.
It is proclamated.
or if not Fairly Odd Parents, some cartoon.
Some sort of Cartoon Network.
Yeah,
Has to be Cartoon Network.
So is
Right,
that
gentlemen.
is that it for our
I
first
do have to
stream?
go. I guess so, unless you're not going to carry it on.
We did it.
We did it. Two
First
hours.
stream over.
Is it 2 hours yet? It's wait a
2
minute.
hours just over. No, it's about dead on 2 hours.
1 hour, 59 minutes, 54 seconds, and
Well,
we're
let's
over.
Hey,
There you go, 2 hours, guys.
we have a comment real
So,
quick. Real quick, we have a comment. The Zeitgeist. Have you guys read Locke? I don't know who that is.
Loki. I read it as Loki.
Is that Loki?
Yeah, Loki.
Yeah, Loki.
Never.
Nickelodeon.
He sounds French.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Charlie Townsend,
Isn't
right?
he lost?
Oh,
It's Nickelodeon.
Jeremy Bentham.
Nickelodeon, Fairly Odd Parents. Nickelodeon.
Oh, that's right.
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. What the fuck is your
Thank you
picture?
for the
Charlie?
correction.
Is that's not Ugandan Knuckles? What the fuck is that?
You do not know the way.
You do not know the way. That is
Anyway,
the
gentlemen.
that is the superior culture, right there.
All right.
Let's wrap it up here then, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you for
Been a
watching.
pleasure. Thank you for watching, everyone.
Thank you.
Join
Might be
us
the last.